Ladies and gentlemen, we meet again towards Parashat Chukat for a short and sweet idea, which I must say I'm emotionally quite attached to this topic. And let me explain. My mother, of blessed memory, who I learned a lot from, was a Holocaust survivor. Her whole family, parents, brothers and sisters, cousins, everybody perished in Auschwitz. And I'm named after one of her brothers who was killed in Auschwitz. However, we spoke about many things over the years. And I remember once asking her, "Mom, tell me, after 120 years, when you get upstairs, do you have any questions?" So she says, "Of course I have questions. I've got a very severe question." So I said, "What's the question?" So she said to me, and I was expecting, Holocaust questions. She said, "What do you mean? Moshe Rabbeinu, 40 years he suffered in the desert with the whole of Am Yisrael, and he wasn't let into the land? How can that be possible? How can that be fair? That's a big question. I want an answer." So I'm slightly emotionally involved with the question I'm posing today. And this question is a bit further complex, which means if Moshe Rabbeinu had to speak to the rock, so why did he have to take his staff? Why was he commanded to take his staff? Question number 2, if Moshe sinned, why did Aaron die as well? Why was there a punishment for both of them when only Moshe really did the sin? And the third issue is, why did it say Yan lo ha'emantem bi la'akdisheni? What has this got to do with Emunah? And besides, whose staff was it? Was it Moshe's staff, Aaron's staff? It's not clear. And what is the big sin of hitting the rock instead of speaking to it? I mean, also hitting the rock and having it give water is still a big ness, a big miracle. And the last question is, why there's no mechila? HaKadosh Baruch Hu created tshuva before he created the world. And everything has teshuvah, everything has mechila. How come this is a sin that Moshe didn't have mechila? I would like to address these few questions, and mainly according to the Kli Yakar, Rabbi Ephraim Yelunchit, 16th century, that I've mentioned many times. First of all, what was going on here? Why did he have to take the staff? So he had to take the staff milifnei Hashem. The staff that milifnei Hashem means the staff that was in the Aron. Which staff is in the Aron? He had to take Aaron, his brother's staff, the staff that had on it the flowers and the almonds and the budding. He had to take that staff. Why did he need to take that staff? So it says a kliyaka, because he was supposed to speak to the rock. And what should he say to the rock? He said, "Look at this staff. This staff is completely dry, has no water in it, and it's budding, and it has flowers and it has almonds, even though no water. Why? Because Hashem said so. So also you, the rock, have to take out of yourself, find somewhere to give us water. Like you have to learn from the staff. That's speak to the rock, and you learn from the staff. And that was the speech that Moshe was supposed to give. Because if Moshe would have given that speech, and it says v'dibartem el hasela, Moshe and Aaron should have spoken to the rock to give its water in the same way that the staff gives its budding and fruit and flowers. This way would have been even a bigger Kiddush Hashem. Why? Because many of the miracles were done with Moshe's staff. Moshe picked up his hand, and people already started believing that Moshe's staff had extra powers. He didn't want, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want it to be a miracle done by Moshe's staff, because the miracle is done by Hashem, and if you speak to it, it's a bigger miracle than again using your staff, because there were many people in Am Yisrael who believed that Moshe had a miraculous staff, but it's not from Hashem. And this way, when he hit the rock, it says he used his staff. He hit the rock, he took the mateh of Aaron, but when he got angry, he hit it with his staff, the staff. So the hitting instead of speaking, and his staff instead of Aaron's staff. And because that was a less of a Kiddush Hashem than it could have been, and therefore they were punished. But what is the concept here? The deeper concept, originally, 40 years earlier, Moshe did bring out water through hitting the rock with his staff. Now, why did he have to speak? And why was it so important this time he speaks and he doesn't hit the rock? Because we're talking about 40 years have passed. We're talking about a different nation. The nation 40 years earlier was a nation of slaves. And what do slaves understand? They understand violence. And therefore you take the staff and you hit the rock. But now it's 40 years later. They've been living in the desert. They've been eating man. They've been learning Torah. It's a much more delicate nation. And they're about to enter the land of Israel. They're not people who understand violence. They understand speech. They are intelligent. And they understand speech. If you, Moshe, think you can still use violence, then you're not the right leader anymore for these people. And therefore, there's no teshuvah. Having said all this, I must tell you, there are many, many more questions that arise here, and many more answers that different rabbis over the centuries try to answer. But at the end of the day, the question is bigger than the answer. And I think that is why it says, that nobody really knows where Moshe Rabbeinu was buried, because nobody really fully understands and comprehends why he had to die in the first place. Food for thought and to ponder. Shabbat Shalom.